Well, we have something a little bit different right now. We have these two amazing writers. We have Kathleen Harris and Rory Kelsch, and they are going to present a spoken text piece of the evening. They started a group called What's Your Story in 2018 as a way to help storytellers share their stories in a very fair, supportive kind of way. You ready, ladies? Ready?
Can everybody hear me now? Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Kathleen McKitty Harris, and this is my friend Rory Kelsch. We are the co-founders of What's Your Story, a storytelling series that was founded on the idea that we have too much technology in our lives, or crap, as I like to call it, and not enough real-life connection and community. But boy, do we have it tonight. So thank you, everyone, for coming out. For the past few years, we brought friends and neighbors to my backyard. We've asked both seasoned performers and first-time storytellers to get up and tell their funny, moving, and empowering stories in front of a casual, supportive audience, much like this one, I hope. What's Your Story's mantra is a simple one. Speak your truth, strengthen your community through connection, and engage in the hilarity and healing power of storytelling. If you want to learn more about upcoming What's Your Story events, you can follow us on Instagram at what'syourstory_NJ. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce my friend, master storyteller, Rory Kelsch.
Thank you, my friend Kathleen Harris, and it takes one to know one. Okay. Many years ago, I stood in front of Rocco's Bakery on Bleecker Street with a group of tourists. They were enjoying their freshly filled cannolis while I yammered on. Then I heard myself deliver a classic blooper, something that can happen to tour guides long after they've memorized a tome of a script, especially one detailing the rich, vibrant history of Greenwich Village's old pushcart section and surrounding neighborhood, my neighborhood. I said, Greenwich Village is generally known as an important landmark on the map of American bohemian culture. Due in part to the progressive attitudes of many of its residents, the village has traditionally been a focal point of new movements and ideas, whether political, artistic, or cultural. Very much like the West Bank. I recovered as quickly as I could, shouting, left! Left bank! Thankfully, I got a little bit more of a laugh back then, but that's okay. I loved being a tour guide. I met people from all over the world who were excited to be walking and eating in the greatest city in the world. It tickled me to watch their reactions to any number of things I had to say. Groups from the Midwest, for example, would visibly blanch when I mentioned rents for apartments, businesses, or even parking spots. And I distinctly remember a woman from Tulsa who sidled up to me in front of the old Yatan kebab house on McDougal. She whispered as her eyes darted about an everyday street scene. "Where's the mafia?" she asked. "They're off today," I said. I was careful not to leave out important moments in village history while we casually strolled around, snacking on falafel, arancini, and lilac chocolates. I talked about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which killed 146 garment workers, 123 of them women and girls. I talked about the Stonewall Uprising, when members of the LGBT community fought back in solidarity against violent and unlawful police raids. And I'm not gonna lie, sometimes in those moments I found myself looking directly at one or two individuals who may or may not have been upset by my mention of these events. And they could have been from anywhere. Perhaps I wrongfully judged their change in demeanor. They were all smiles at the old Chumleys hearing the origin of the term 86th, as well as at the flat on Bedford Street, where Walt Disney famously sketched on the walls, only to look a little aggrieved, shall we say, at my mention of the struggles and not so peaceful history of this hallowed ground. It was a risk I took. Tips were optional. I told them I prayed for two things, peace and parking. And it's true to this day. I'm no longer a tour guide nor much of a praying person, but I remain convinced that peace, true peace, isn't something you can wish for on a birthday candle or a slice of cake or while tossing a coin into a fountain. And I don't think we can achieve peace without first knowing some struggle, much like we can't have joy without sadness, and we can't move toward light unless we are, in fact, in some darkness. But I stand here bearing witness to the immense generosity of this creative community. And my faith, whatever's left of it, is buoyed by all of us. Coming together today and for the past 2 Sundays, I am both grateful and humbled to be a part of it. So I'd like to share with you my prayer for peace. It's not really a prayer. It's a quote from Letters to My Son, written by Kent Nurburn, a writer and sculptor from the great city of Minneapolis. But if it feels like I'm leading you in prayer and you're cool with that, so be it. But if that's not your thing, that's cool too. Just give a listen. Remember to be gentle with yourself and with each other. We are all children of chance, and none can say why some fields blossom while others lay brown beneath the August sun. Care for those around you. Look past your differences. Their dreams are no less than yours, their choices in life no more easily made. And give. Give in any way you can, of whatever you possess. To give is to love. To withhold is to wither. Care less for your harvest than how it is shared, and your life will have meaning, and your heart will have peace. Thank you. And now, without further ado, my dear friend, co-host and co-producer of What's Your Story, New Jersey, please follow us on Instagram, Kathleen McKitty Harris.
Hello. To me, tennis was a sport meant for other, better, blonder people. But pickleball, a sport somewhat like tennis, but more like ping pong, played on a smaller version of a tennis court, has somehow become the balm that I need in these uncertain times. I'm a 5th-generation New Yorker who spent most of her childhood in Queens, but in the early 1980s, my parents and I left behind our ancestral New York City home and moved to Fairfield County, Connecticut. A few weeks before we moved, my parents' friend, Bitsy, gave me a copy of Lisa Birnbach's 1980s style Bible, the official preppy handbook. Bitsy was petite, frosted-haired, and perky. Everything I was not. She lived on a strict diet of Newport menthol cigarettes, halved grapefruits and iceberg salad without dressing, Mateus rosé wine, and tennis. While Bitsy, Hollywood starlet-style, smoked a lit Newport with her right hand, she extended the book to me with her other, slender, tanned, and tennis braceleted left. "Read this," she said. "It's a hoot. Read it cover to cover." She was smiling, but she was also completely serious. To her, this was religious text, a manual for greatness, and something to be revered. The book terrified me. I had only worn a plaid uniform in Catholic school in Queens, had no fashion sense or a New England pedigree, and did not have one friend named Muffy or Bunny. How would I ever make this transition, especially when I didn't know what a Bermuda bag or an LL Bean duck shoe was? So when we arrived in Connecticut, my father took Bitsy's advice and he signed me up for tennis lessons. He wanted me to fit in. He wanted me to have more than his own Brooklyn upbringing had afforded. He wanted me to be fluent in the language of suburbia, and he wanted me to adapt to this new lifestyle easily and seamlessly. But I was hopeless. I was chubby and slow and in the throes of puberty. Besides, there was no such thing as a sports bra back then, and I had been given the beautiful, terrible gift of 34B cup breasts on a 13-year-old's body. On the first day of tennis lessons, I showed up in jean cutoffs instead of tennis whites, rookie mistake. I wore a cheap knockoff polo shirt that my mother brought from Caldor, a discount department store, rather than the famed Izod Lacoste brand that I coveted. My polo shirt didn't have the iconic embroidered alligator logo, but instead a slightly toothy, rabid-looking raccoon logo on its upper left front. My Brooklyn-born mother said, "So what if Izod has a crocodile and Caldor has a raccoon? They're both wild animals. What's the difference?" Tennis and I were not meant to be friends. I soon gave up any hope of playing the sport, but now at the age of 50, I have strangely returned to it. More specifically to a pickleball court, one of several that Ridgewood has refurbished from their old tennis courts. Friends of ours had jokingly suggested the game to my husband and me a year or so earlier, but we balked at both the name, who plays a sport named after a garnish, and at any possibility of playing a sport in our creakier years. Then the pandemic hit, and pickleball suddenly became an unlikely route to peace. After weeks of being trapped in our home and feeling socially isolated by coronavirus, my husband and I readily accepted our friend's invitation to play. My husband bought us cheap paddles online, and we met our friends down at the court. At first, we made fun of the official sign hanging on a nearby fence, imploring court users to use, quote, muted balls. But we stepped up to the service line anyway and started playing. I was pretty awful at first, missing many shots, getting frustrated at my ineptitude with the game. But I kept showing up, and so did our friends. Another mutual friend of ours had lost her brother to COVID a few months earlier. His death had pulled the rug out from under her, from all of us, actually, as so many COVID deaths had, since he was one of many who died young and vital, and with so much life ahead of him. After he died, our dear friend mourned her loss quietly and bravely. I was hesitant to bombard her with texts and calls, knowing how much she was enduring and processing. I didn't always know how to help or what to say, so I asked her to play pickleball with us. So now the 6 of us, 3 couples, started a round-robin doubles kind of thing that didn't make much sense to anyone but us. And we didn't care. We didn't need to be good at the game, necessarily. We just kept showing up, not only for ourselves, but for each other. Sorry. The rhythm of the game and the laughter that we and our friends have shared have become a welcome weekly routine in my life. When my 50th birthday arrived, our friends gifted me with a far nicer set of paddles to replace the cheap ones we first purchased, as well as a very, very large tube of Bengay. It was better than the party I couldn't have in light of the pandemic. It meant the world. A few weeks ago, as my husband and I grew more anxious about our daughter heading off to her freshman year of college and our son heading to either school or his bedroom or both for hybrid learning, we stopped arguing about it and took to the court instead, hitting the ball back and forth until it grew dark, lulling our overhyped nervous systems with the comforting, thwacking rhythm of the ball passing back and forth. We played for so long that my husband turned on his headlights so we could still keep playing. We didn't say a word to each other while we played. We just kept volleying and returning. We felt so much better by the time we got back to the car. Pickleball has been an unlikely ritual for me, allowing me to focus for a few moments on just one thing, making contact, when so much of life currently doesn't allow for that. It's a way of quieting my overthinking mind. For an hour or so, all I need to do is connect with the ball, return the ball, think about the next shot, and laugh when I undoubtedly miss. Afterwards, I'm sweaty and sore, achy and tired, but I keep showing up, and so do our friends. I show up because I am so aware that so many people in this world no longer can. I show up because the game has become an odd, beautiful meditation amidst rectangles of green concrete. I show up because there's not much that I can control in life right now, except maybe developing a better backhand. I show up because some days in the midst of so much sorrow and worry and confusion, all I can do is follow the ball, and all I can do is hit it back over the net. I show up because you only live once, but you get to serve twice, even in a pandemic. Thank you.
Spoken text by Kathleen Harris and Rory Kelsch. That was beautiful. Thank you so much.